Well, hello there. This is my new idea for a series I would like to call, I don't know, Draw and Talk, Sketch and Kvetch. So far, what I got is a pencil, a paper, and my dysfunctional brain and my mouth. So I thought it's quite enough to begin this experiment, and it's going to involve just drawing random shapes and seeing what the drawing wants to be. And from time to time I'm going to turn on the time lapse, and if I happen to say something vaguely interesting, I'm going to just include it in the video. Alright, so let's start. I'm just going to start with some vague squiggles, and I will not take requests because I don't know myself what this drawing wants to be, and the drawing doesn't listen to anyone. It just comes out, and I also don't know if it's going to end up being just an abstract drawing or a drawing of something, or a drawing that resembles something. Most likely any random shape that we can interpret turns into a face, because humans are mostly equipped with recognizing faces. It's our evolutionary feature. We see face in everything because we were conditioned to recognize human faces. It's something to do with our origin. When we are born, the first thing we see is a face of our mother or our future guardian or custodian. But yeah, I'm just going to draw without knowing what I'm drawing, and also talk without knowing what I'm talking about, which is strangely liberating. And I don't even know if I'm going to post it. So I'm basically feeling like I'm talking to myself and not to an audience of people I never met. Because if I tried to make it as if I talked to a camera addressing a lot of people, it may have been a failure. It might not work. And also I'm not very prepared for this today. The lighting is not perfect, and I don't have a microphone, but the phone microphone is close enough to my mouth, so hopefully it will work out. In the next sessions I will be able to get better lighting and better audio. So what I like doing is just rubbing the graphite against the paper, and depending on the paper's grammature, the texture, there are certain things that happen. There's certain interruptions for my pencil that influence what I want to see emerge from the drawing, and then I make some vague decisions. For example, I decide that this area here will be darker and this area here will be lighter for some reason. And then if there's a blemish on the paper, some kind of bump in it, I sometimes would take advantage of it. And sometimes I like to start out from the corner and just pretty much do it the way a printer does. It also is good to do that because I can prevent smudging. So like maybe I can start here instead of here. So let me start over from the corner. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. It's sort of like our timeline in our life in general it's never known what's going to happen, what choices there will be to make, and also what choices we will make. We just don't know, and we just go with it. We don't have a predetermined lines. We're not actors, even though sometimes it feels like it. The only predetermined lines and behaviors that we have is our conditioning, our upbringing, our experiences that tell us maybe, I don't know, what's the moral thing to do or what's the right thing to do. And usually the kind of universal idea of what's the right thing to do is to do what causes least harm, or to the others and to myself, and more than that, beyond that, doing what brings the most well-being to myself and the others. And if we are sociopaths, narcissists, or just, I don't know, conditioned or born with certain malignant features, then we will live against that truth. We will live against the well-being of our own well-being and the well-being of other humans. Or we will try to enrich our own well-being while making others miserable. So making others pay for our well-being. But other than that, we don't really know what's going to happen. We might predict certain trajectories because some things are already in motion. So like, it's sort of the simplified way of explaining it is that someone kicked the football and we can vaguely predict not only which direction the football is going, but approximate landing position of that ball when it lands. So we can kind of predict that, and we can either miss the ball or we can kick it back or we can catch it. So like, there's that. But even then, something surprising might turn the ball away from its trajectory. So yeah, we can rely on some trajectories, but we can never really tell what's going to happen truly. And then based on what happened, if something already did happen, we might not be able to interpret it until we had enough time to sort of connect the dots, to see the big picture. Just like with this drawing, it's sort of, as things occur, I'm making my decisions based on these very random and almost accidental marks that I'm leaving on the paper, almost mindlessly. It's sort of letting the physics of the act take over. So the pencil is going against a friction of the paper has bumps under the microphone. This paper surface would look like Himalayas or even higher mountains, like the mountains that, or canyons that you can find on Mars that are way higher, larger than what we have on Earth. But yeah, these little bumps and little accidents determine what's going to be appearing on this paper, and then I can't really help but to decide about what to highlight, how to interpret the drawing, what to see in it. Maybe I'll see a face in it, maybe a scene, maybe an abstract, but it will make sense once I have all the information. And as the drawing happens, I have no clue. It's sort of I'm experiencing it, but and also when I'm talking, I'm also a little bit more distracted. I don't really think about every single stroke I'm leaving. It's sort of becoming an autopilot, and I'm starting to feel more and more automatic, which is sort of liberating and very meditative. And then the drawing is unfolding on its own, but I have a very vague participation in it. So I'm sort of letting it take over, but at the same time I'm controlling my own interpretation of what's happening on the paper. So I'm starting to see a sort of vague space, a shape. I see an ear here. It may be too early to draw any conclusions from the drawing, because there's only not even 1/4 of it completed. And then I can go back in and kind of try to make something emerge more forcefully. And if I was more motivated to end up with something representational, maybe I would push my drawing towards it representing an elephant or a person or a landscape. Though I am not inclined to do that. I'm just going to let it happen. And that's what we can draw our comparisons again to how we live our lives, which is we are almost making a picture of our entire life based on some predetermined plans. I want my life to be a landscape. I want my life to be a portrait. I want to be a doctor. I want to be an artist. I want to be the President of the United States. But those are just superficial functions or identities. Like, what sort of President of the United States will you be? Are you going to be a different person if you become one? Are you still going to be you if you are a doctor or a lawyer? We always think about our future selves as people other than ourselves, because deep down we want to break away from who we really are. We want to be better. We want to be someone else. We look at our role models and we want to be like them. And when we say things like, I want my life to change, or I want to change my life, I want to become better, we just say that we don't want to be ourselves anymore. We're tired with being ourselves. And that's not necessarily a good thing, because I'm not an artist, I'm not a sports coach, I'm not a nurse, I'm me. It's first and foremost. I could have training, I could have experience, but it doesn't really change who I really am or what I really am. And what am I really? It's sort of, once you are stripping down that sort of identity narrative, you are becoming the follower of your pencil lead. You just sort of glide along the paper and you allow your own identity or your own self to unfold without thinking too much about that identity. I'm not really thinking about what it is. I sort of forget that it's a paper, that it's a pencil, that it's a drawing, that it's going to end at some point. That's another thing. We obsessing about the final result. We are obsessing about our legacy. Where will we be when we are done with our lives? Are we going to be able to finish our drawing? Are we going to be forced to stop our work prematurely? That shouldn't be a concern. I could stop right now. See, I stopped. Of course, I will resume, but if I was to stop right now, I wouldn't feel disappointed. It would be just this. This would be my experience for the day, and I don't know, I would just sort of walk away without worrying about it too much. But we are really focused on the final product. So like, I bet many of you is already impatient about seeing where this drawing will take us. And I understand that, because we are conditioned to care only about the final result. We see artwork neatly framed on the walls in the galleries, and that's how we want to see it. We want to see it finished. We don't care about the process as much. The process is what matters. The final ready piece of art is just a shell of that experience. It's just a record. You're not actually experiencing what the artist experienced making it. And that's how we are conditioned. We want results. We want to see where it all takes us right away. Like, did you graduate? Did you get all your credentials? Are you the fullest of your fullest self? Are you what your parents wanted you to be? Are you finished? Are you still baking? So that doesn't really matter. It's the process. It's where I am now. It's that little corner of that paper that I'm filling up with lines that I'm not sure are going to take me anywhere. I don't know if it's going to end up looking like a camel or a tree. I don't care. But I enjoy the sound, even the smell of the graphite rubbing against the paper. I enjoy a little bit of a resistance that the paper gives me. and that's where I want to be. I don't want to be anywhere else. I don't want to think about where will I be when I'm over here in the last corner of my drawing. I don't know. I don't want to know. And we always talk big about where we will be, what we're about. There's a lot of words attached to our being. But I just imagine the world without words. I mean, don't get me wrong, language is very important. It really rewired the human brain and helped us develop into this super-powered species that took over the entire planet, for better or for worse. But just imagine looking at humans beyond what they are saying. So like sometimes you hear a lot of promises, broken promises, or you hear someone say, I'm going to make this giant sculpture. It's going to be 500 feet tall and it's going to be carved out of marble. It's going to be awesome. And then everybody forgets the sculpture is never made. And then you ask them, hey, what about that sculpture you're going to make? And then they say, it was just a talk. I was just kind of dreaming aloud. And it's okay to dream, to have dreams and to sort of put your dreams into words, and maybe those words can motivate you to do great things. But most of the time words are empty. And like when you look at what people say, there's certain motivational quotes that are supposed to transform your outlook on reality. And then there's nothing behind it. Just words, just words. So like I might tell you, this is going to be the most awesome drawing on the planet, and it's going to depict Virgin Mary holding baby Jesus, and it's going to be super realistic, or it's going to make you cry because it's going to be very touching depiction. I'm not promising anything. It might end up being a dud. It might be nothing. It might be just a jumble of random lines, which is okay. But I'm not going to promise anything. Because doing is what matters. The words are mostly separate from the actions. So try not to focus on what people are saying, whether they say good things or bad things. Sometimes people's words can scare you, or people can make predictions that are kind of scary, and you feel like their words really have a lot of weight, and you feel like someone says, oh, the world is about to end, World War III is coming. Hearing it makes you feel like it's actually going to happen. But these are just words. So hearing words is very suggestive. You can really believe certain things people say, and even if you're skeptical, the words can shake you up. If someone says things about reality that you don't agree with, it can still shake you up. It can still undermine your entire view of reality. Even if you are correct, someone telling you that the earth is flat will shake you up and will make you upset. And for a brief second, you will actually start questioning your sanity, and you will say, oh, maybe they have a point. But, to be honest, the Earth is pretty flat when you look at it. It's just in the greater scheme of things, the Earth is one of the planets. Nothing unusual. On that scale, every sort of matter and gravitational force turns into a ball, because that's the only way gravity can sustain the mass of things at this scale. So yeah, in case you wondered, I'm not a flat earther. And because this is sort of a new experiment for me, I wasn't quite sure how it's going to affect me. And for what I'm noticing right now is that in some way it's taking away from my focus on the drawing itself. But in some way the drawing itself is influencing the way I can speak. Normally I don't really speak as much or as well. I'm not a speaker. But this slight distraction actually helps me forget that I'm supposed to enunciate and emphasize words and project. I'm just sort of going with it. So it actually kind of helps me with my drawing, and also the drawing helps me with my talking. It's like a meditation, and it kind of a two-way meditation, drawing and talking, or thinking aloud. So far I see spaces, I see shadows and light, I see some shapes emerging. I can kind of go back in and just maybe try to define some shapes a little bit more to see what it wants to become. But so far I just see nothing but maybe a nose here. There's a nose drill, strange nose. But other than that, still nothing, which is okay. Abstract is normal, abstract is fine. I can do abstract. And yeah, if it's not something that you hoped for it to be, that's the exercise in acceptance. I could have hoped for it to become something ahead of time, or as I'm working on this drawing, I might expect certain things to start emerge, which I kind of am tempted to do, and I can't really help it. I am kind of giddy and impatient about the final result, or maybe impatient about what I will finally see emerge from the drawing. So I'm in a slight struggle between forcing it and letting it go. And it's sort of a practice that's kind of difficult. It's not easy to let go. And when it comes to reality and being in your world, it's the same sort of struggle. It's very tempting to expect things, and you want things to be a certain way, and your efforts to pay off, and then if they don't, you get really upset. But the nature of being in reality and the nature of creating things is unpredictable and always will be. That's because we don't know the future, and we can influence the future by our current actions to some extent, like, you know, starting our retirement savings. That's a huge deal for our future to take care of our retirement ahead of time. So I'm not advocating for being totally oblivious to the future or to neglecting your future self's needs. You know, I don't eat a big meal before sleeping because I know that my future self will have a miserable time falling asleep. So on this kind of smaller scale, it's actually recommended that we look out for our future selves or our loved ones' future, you know, making sure that our offspring will have money for school or maybe good start or education. I see a figure up here, sort of mysterious hooded figure, but I'm not going to force it yet. When it wants to emerge, it will emerge. I guess at the end of this video we will find out whether this advice can apply to life advice, or is it going to turn into a giant failure? And then we'll have to be forced to define failure, because basically the definition of failure is to face the outcome that we didn't plan for. But truthfully, not all failure is failure, because a lot of outcomes we didn't plan for actually turned out to be quite successful. In science, pretty much almost majority of these great discoveries were done in search for something else. A very simple example was when, I think it was German alchemist who was trying to come up with the formula for gold, who accidentally created a European version of porcelain, because porcelain was a well-guarded secret by the Chinese. But apparently the porcelain was also invented in Germany in, I think, 17th century, because the alchemist who failed to create gold out of other elements accidentally created porcelain. So I wouldn't be too obsessed with success or failure, because very often a failure becomes a success. Even if it's a learning opportunity, if you failed at something, there's always a good reason. Often the failure is not really, very often the failure feels unfair, but most of the time failure is just occurring because the conditions for our attempts were just not there, and we had incorrect assumptions about what will happen if we do it this way or that way. So the idea of failure is sort of a trap, And it's sort of sad because this trap makes us quit, and quitting is the true failure. The failing at something is not the ultimate failure. The ultimate failure is giving up because something didn't work out. And of course, learning that something didn't work out because there was absolutely no way this would work out is a good lesson. But we often reject that lesson, and we just kind of get angry and defensive. Like, it's unfair, I failed, and I had everything, I had all my ducks in a row, and it didn't work out, even though I was sure it would. But it didn't work out because the circumstances just didn't allow for it, because there was something wrong with my endeavor. There's something that didn't add up. I failed at, I don't know, becoming an influencer, or I failed at becoming famous artist because someone already painted that painting I've had in mind and became famous. And that's not fair, but it's very understandable reason for failing. Someone already did it, so you couldn't. There's your math. So failure is a lesson. And sometimes failure is not a failure, because sometimes failure is just a mistaken identity case of, you identify the outcome as failure, but it's, it's not gold, but it's porcelain, and you still feel like you failed, but you just can't take the alternative outcome because it's not what you intended. The ego is telling you that you failed because the important part of you wanted it to be a total success. You really wanted gold. You can't just settle with porcelain. Alright, so far we've got shapes. That ghostly figure here. It's too early to judge it or to draw conclusions. I'm going to start from the edge again. Yeah, I definitely feel the struggle of wanting for it to be awesome as opposed to just enjoying the moment, and that's a struggle, and it's actually very important to recognize it and to catch it. And when you catch it and call it out, it's already bringing you closer to the right mindset for being calmer and accepting. Like I kind of want to program it, and I'm expecting myself to maybe create creating a deliberate shape, maybe create something that's brighter here, like a shape that's lighter here, brighter, because it's been kind of dark and gray so far. There's not that much contrast, and my learned artist is starting to give me a hard time about, like, you know, oh, you should do golden ratio, you should do contrast, shadow and light, perspective, you should do those things. Why did you learn all those things if you don't do them? But it would be like a martial artist who's trying to defeat their opponent by using all the possible moves they learned. Sometimes you can defeat your opponent with a simple jab, or even without a fight. Or you can say, I'm not going to fight you, let's just talk. And that's the ultimate win. When you avoid the fight, that's when you win. When you don't hurt other person, when they don't hurt you, when you don't damage property, that's the win. Not when you kick their ass. I kicked his ass. That's not a win. It's the win. It kind of feels like a kind of an animalistic way of thinking about winning. It's like, you defeat your enemy and then you take their food and drink and their shelter and their women, whatever. Because it's a struggle, dog eats dog kind of world. But we probably evolved beyond that, hopefully, luckily or hopefully we evolved beyond that, and now the muscle is not everything. I mean, muscle is something that people still obsess about, like a lot of the, especially male influencers, are giving advice to young men about how to be bigger, get bigger muscles. This dude is huge. But like, why? Is that all that there is? Even within the fitness context, like, why? I mean, I get it that you can be doing it for aesthetic reasons. Maybe you are competing in a bodybuilder's competition. But like, the example of the size versus agility is when someone who is very agile and fit starts to lift weights a lot and becomes very muscular, wider, bigger, heavier, and then they lose the ability to climb trees, to jump, to run swiftly, and to dodge the trees. Right, I did a few lines off camera just to see if it will change anything, and actually it did shift my mindset a little bit. I just felt a little bit less tense. So I think this might be because of the duration of each drawing, I think it might turn into a 3-parter. So I think I might draw this one to a close, turn this into a part 1 of my Sketch and Kvetch series. And so far, I don't know what I see in it. Maybe I can allow for comments so that you can let me know what you already see in the drawing, not what you would like to see. I would like you to comment based on what you already see, but not what you would like me to draw. Like, I don't want people to say, I'd like you to draw a portrait of Ariana Grande, or I would like you to make a picture of a English countryside landscape. No, just, you know, based on what we already have. Maybe you already have some ideas about what you already see in those shapes, and then maybe we can take it from there, or I can just continue and see where it takes us. So that, I feel like it's much more interesting than drawing according to predetermined blueprints and ideas. Just, you know, go with it, see where it gets you. And that's what I wish for you and your general experience of reality and life. See you in the next part.